Welcome back to Digital Rage. I am Jeff, the producer here at Fish Tank Digital, and today we have our latest threat intelligence brief for the first half of December. Lots of moving parts here. A big actor is back in the game, so let's check it out.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going to be tearing into a really critical threat brief. It covers global cyber activity for the first half of December 2025. And this isn't just a status report. It's a high-stakes snapshot of a very, very rapidly changing landscape.
It really is.
So our mission really is to give you the shortcut. We need to map these strategic shifts, who is hitting whom, where are those attacks landing, and I think most crucially, what's the universal entry point that just about everyone is exploiting right now?
It's an absolutely essential briefing because, in just 2 weeks, the priorities for major threat actors, they fundamentally shifted. If you only look at the executive summary, there are 3 core themes that just jump right out. They define this entire period.
Okay, let's hear them, because the data suggests this wasn't just, typical activity. This was a major pivot.
First, the sheer force of LockBit's return. They are back in the top 5 ransomware list. And their reentry was, it was immediate and aggressive. It just confirms that these dismantled groups, they don't disappear, they hibernate and they rebuild, and they do it fast.
Okay, so that's number one. What's the second big theme?
Second, we have a total shock in the sector and geographic targeting. And this was driven by a little-known group called Coinbase Cartel.
Coinbase Cartel. I've heard that name pop up.
Their sudden rise simultaneously pushed the United Arab Emirates into the top 5 target regions globally, and it elevated the construction sector to the number 1 victim sector. And those 2 shifts are intrinsically connected. It signals completely new strategic interests.
That's fascinating because it means we can't just look at the raw numbers. We have to look at the motivation. So what's the third piece of intelligence?
The method. It's the dominance of a single universal flaw, the React-to-Shell vulnerability. This one exploit became the skeleton key for nearly every major threat actor during this period.
So if you understand React-to-Shell, you understand how almost all of these attacks happen.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack that then. Let's start with the shifting power structure among the ransomware groups, the who of this equation. This is where we see who's really dominating the board.
Right. We still have some heavyweights holding their ground. Qilin, for instance, absolutely dominated. They grabbed over a quarter of all disclosed victims.
A quarter? Wow. So that's what, 26.5% roughly?
About that, yeah. And Akira also remained a top-tier actor, holding strong at about 13%. So, these are consistent, mature operations.
But the real drama, the major signal here, lies in the groups that surged. And the immediate reappearance of LockBit it's astonishing. They were effectively decimated just a few months ago.
It speaks volumes about their resilience, the modular nature of these operations. LockBit immediately re-entered the rankings at number 3.
Number 3, just like that.
Just like that. Claiming over 6% of the market share. To jump from effectively 0 to number 3 in 2 weeks confirms they weren't truly taken down. They just fragmented, restructured, and aggressively launched new attacks to prove they were back.
That implies they had infrastructure just ready to go.
Yeah.
So it's less a rebuild and more of a reboot.
It's a reboot, exactly.
And what are the fast movers? The true newcomers making all the noise.
That's where Coinbase Cartel comes in. Shinobi continued its steady climb, landing at number 4, but the standout jump belongs to Cartel. They vaulted dramatically from 17th place, completely peripheral, all the way into the top 5.
17th to 5th.
And that movement was driven almost entirely by aggressive victim disclosures targeted at very specific industries and locations.
Okay, so if that's the who, we have to look at the where and the what, because those shifts are where the strategic intent is really revealed. Let's talk about the victim sectors.
The shift here it's unprecedented. The construction sector moved from being the 4th most targeted all the way up to number 1.
Number 1.
It now accounts for more than 17% of all victims. Financial services and technology, they remain high targets, but construction on top is a massive signal.
Why construction, though? That's not traditionally a sector known for massive data hoards, not like tech or finance. What does that signal about their strategy?
It signals a few things. First, Construction relies heavily on tight deadlines and operational technology, OT integration. That makes them highly susceptible to disruption.
Okay, that makes sense.
Second, their IT security maturity is often, well, it's lower than the highly regulated financial or tech sectors.
The path of least resistance.
Right. But most importantly, it signifies an attack on the supply chain. Construction firms often deal with lucrative government or infrastructure contracts. Compromising a large construction firm provides a potential bridgehead into much larger, more difficult targets.
So they're hitting the weakest link to get to the biggest prize. Coinbase Cartel clearly found a high leverage entry point there.
They did.
Geographically, the USA is still the main target, right? Absorbing nearly half the attacks.
It is, yeah, about 48% of disclosed victims.
Mm-hmm.
But the geographical expansion is also a huge story. The United Arab Emirates has entered the top 5 victim locations for the first time ever. They're coming in at nearly 3% of victims globally.
And that's not a coincidence, I'm guessing?
Not at all. It's a direct consequence of that surge in attacks targeting construction and the high-value real estate sectors in the UAE.
All driven by Coinbase Cartel.
Largely, yes. Canada, the UK, Germany, they're still consistently high targets. But the UAE's entry shows certain groups are just following the money regardless of geography. But if we connect all this data, the who, the what, the where, the single most critical detail might not be the location, but the size of the organization being hit.
Right. Tell us about that breakdown, because the numbers here are genuinely shocking.
The concentration on smaller targets is just overwhelming. We define small businesses as organizations with 500 or fewer employees.
Okay.
They accounted for a staggering 81.37% of all victims. And this isn't an arbitrary fluctuation. It's a sharp 9.08% jump from the prior period.
Wow. Over 8 out of 10 attacks hit small organizations.
It's a massive strategic shift.
And if we look at the inverse, it really emphasizes the priority. Large enterprise targeting organizations with over 5,000 employees, that dropped by over 7.5%.
Precisely. This means the adversaries have made a clear tactical decision. They're prioritizing high-volume, opportunistic exploitation.
It's just easier.
It's easier to hit 1,000 small businesses with weaker security than it is to dedicate resources to one heavily defended large enterprise. They are maximizing their digital surface area for quick, high-volume returns.
Maximizing surface area over maximizing the prize value.
I see.
Which leads us naturally to the how. And this is where it gets really interesting. The method of attack, all dominated by React 2 Shell.
And React 2 Shell provided that flaw ubiquitously. The core vulnerability is the React Server Components issue. It's cataloged as CVE 2025-55182.
And that comes from Meta's React framework, which is everywhere.
It's everywhere. It allowed the specific React 2 Shell exploitation framework to execute remote code. So, in simple terms, it was a critical design flaw in a globally used technology that let attackers tell a server to run their malicious code.
And we aren't just talking about one group using this. The data shows a whole constellation of adversarial clusters piling onto this flaw.
That's the danger of a universal vulnerability. We track multiple threat clusters, UNC 5174, UNC 6588, UNC 6588, and several others all showed elevated activity.
And for our listeners, UNC stands for uncategorized, right? So these are new or unverified actors.
That's right. And the fact that all these new and established groups immediately use this one flaw tells us it was widely shared, easy to use, and highly effective.
They weren't just observing. They were focusing on rapid exploitation, broad scanning behavior.
Exactly. When a skeleton key gets passed around, everyone starts trying doors. And the real-world impact is sobering. We know the React 2 Shell flaw was exploited to breach at least 30 different organizations in this brief window.
30 confirmed breaches.
And more concerningly, official confirmation showed at least 77,000 IP addresses were still vulnerable to this single flaw globally. It just underscores the severity.
Okay, let's shift focus to the trending tools adversaries are using, the tools of the trade beyond the big ransomware names.
We're seeing a highly optimized and diverse toolkit. It shows groups are focusing on specific functions, not just pure encryption.
So info stealers for that initial compromise.
Crucial for that, yes. We saw Isuru, which is highly targeted at extracting browser data and credentials, the keys to the kingdom. And then there's the emergence of Shai-Hulud 2.0.
Great name.
It's an updated stealer with significantly improved evasion techniques. It's specifically designed to get past modern endpoint detection and security software. So its real innovation is in its ability to hide.
Better at stealing, better at hiding. What about remote access, establishing that long-term presence?
We track two significant remote access Trojans, or RATs. Etherrat is a very lightweight option used for quick remote control and data theft. But ValleyRat is the modular option, specifically used in long-term espionage campaigns.
And they're still innovating on distribution and mobile too, right? Targeting that massive consumer surface area.
Absolutely. We have Glassworm, which acts as a worm-like loader spreading quickly across internal networks. And on the mobile front, DroidLock is critical. This is Android malware used for device locking and extortion. It basically mirrors desktop ransomware tactics, but for your phone.
And while React 2 Shell dominated the volume, specialized attackers are certainly not ignoring other high-profile targets. We're still seeing attacks on new flaws in Chromium, Apple, Android, Windows.
Correct. While React was the headline, other vulnerabilities demanded immediate patching. We saw elevated targeting of WinRAR, specifically CVE 2025-6218, the mapping software GeoServer, and critical flaws in enterprise solutions like ArrayOS AG.
So it's a very wide range of targets.
A very wide range. It confirms that while broad opportunistic flaws like React 2 Shell capture the volume, specialized groups are still hitting specific high-value software products, which I think raises the ultimate question. How do these cold, hard statistics, the 81% target rate, the CVE numbers, how do they actually translate into high-impact events for organizations?
We saw several major real-world incidents reported during this period that clearly connect to these trends. It's hard to ignore the headline that contractors were accused of wiping 96 U.S. government databases.
That event alone just demonstrates the severe consequence of insider threat and unchecked access.
And the supply chain risks are just exploding. The data shows over 10,000 Docker Hub images were found leaking credentials and auth keys. That shows how easily one small exposed component can compromise an entire ecosystem. The financial sector impact was also major. The marquee data breach hit over 74 U.S. banks and credit unions. It's that ripple effect we talked about. Compromise one processor, and you compromise dozens of smaller institutions.
And finally, the sheer scale of social engineering was just... It was illustrated by the Shady Panda malicious browser extension campaign. It got over 4 million installed.
4 million. Another example of targeting massive volume over prestige.
Right.
It wasn't all grim news, though. Law enforcement and regulators did manage to push back, which is always crucial context.
They did. We saw regulatory oversight with the EU fining $140 million over deceptive blue check marks. That shows serious attention being paid to platform integrity. Also, police forces successfully took down the CryptoMixer cryptocurrency mixing service, disrupting a vital money laundering tool.
And the major vendors responded, which is essential defense.
Yes, urgent patches were issued by major players like Fortinet, Ivanti, and SAP to address critical flaws. That rapid patching is the essential countermeasure against the kind of opportunistic exploitation we saw with React 2 Shell.
So let's summarize what we've learned from this deep dive. The knowledge we walk away with confirms the ransomware hierarchy is shifting rapidly, with LockBit's forceful return. The geography of targeting is expanding, notably into the UAE, linked directly to that construction sector surge. And the vulnerability of the moment, React 2 Shell, is driving a volume-based strategy across a whole array of different threat groups.
But the truly critical takeaway, I think, for anyone preparing for the future is the clear signal of operational priority. That dramatic, nearly 10% jump in targeting small businesses means the adversary strategy is now ruthlessly optimized for high-volume, opportunistic exploitation.
They're looking for the path of least resistance across the widest possible field.
That's it.
So here's the thought I want to leave you with. Given that over 81% of observed attacks hit organizations with 500 or fewer employees, and groups are using broad scanning for flaws like React 2 Shell, what does security look like when volume, not prestige, is the main metric for attack success? Does this mean cybersecurity is now less about protecting high-value targets and more about successfully exploiting sheer digital surface area? Something for you to mull over as you think about securing your own digital perimeter. Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next week.
Reach out to us at jbyer.com for comments and questions. Follow us at Byer Company on social media, and if you'd be so kind, please rate and review us in your podcast app.